we're back, and this is the second GDC podcast live episode. I'm Chris Graft, editor-in-chief of Gamma Sutra. I'm here with Alyssa.
Yeah.
Hey, Alyssa.
Hello, I'm Alyssa McAloon. I am news editor, associate publisher at Gamma Sutra, and they let us do this podcast a second time after
Yeah, I know. I wonder,
a lot of trust.
I wonder if anyone except for our coworker, like other than our coworkers, are watching right now. But welcome and thank you for joining us, those of you who are here. So it's weird, Alyssa, this is like episode 13, and I don't know about our guest mixed with the number 13. It's a recipe.
There's a lot of interesting timing with the live episodes of the podcast. Like yesterday, our guest coincided with an announcement that Able Gamers had. And today, like lucky number 13 with special guest Mike Rose. So
yeah. It is Mike Rose. I think. Do you think?
Oh, did I spoil that? No, that's in the description.
No, because if he is the draw, people would not be here if they didn't know that the Mike Rose. Certainly, they're not here for us. But yeah. Well, let's talk about him a little bit. So our next guest for episode 13. All right. He's taller in person than you'd expect. Once threw an individually wrapped pad of butter at my eye during a dinner with PlayStation execs while in Germany. He once worked for Tiny Build, the publisher Tiny Build, where he wore an orange baseball cap all the time. That was what he's most known for. Now he's the founder of indie publisher No More Robots, and they've published games including Descenders. Ever hear of it? With the bicycles.
That one game with the bicycles and the hills and they descend.
Yeah, they go down.
It's like, really cool.
Yeah, and they flip all over the place. It's very good. Also, Yes, Your Grace, and also the IGF finalist Hypnospace Outlaw. But there's more. He has spoken at GDC multiple times about digital publishing. I'm pointing at you like I'm chastising you. We're on Zoom, and I'm not used to my gesticulations being broadcast. Yeah, so, and he's talked a lot about digital publishing and game discoverability. He'll be leading a live skill building series session here at GDC Summer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And he also used to work with me at Gamma Sutra, where we used to give each other endless crap. So, and he's a great guy. So let's welcome Mike Rose. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really pleasant and long intro.
Yeah, I love these live intros because we can see you on mute in Zoom and just like reacting to everything and nobody else knows.
I think I was nodding through most of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like I agreed.
Yeah. I mean, you really need to update your personal page or get some kind of fact-based thing.
I just need a recording of everything you just said, just to play when people want to know now.
Yeah. So how have you been, Mike? You've had a busy past week, busy past 3 months. You're always busy. That's one of the things about you. You're just like seem to have endless amounts of energy for all these projects. So how's everything going at No More Robots?
Do you know, the funny thing is though that I really don't like. I actually think I did when I started this. I think when I started this, I was going to say I was still young. I absolutely wasn't, but I was less tired, and now I am so tired. But I'm happy as well. So I'm happy about it all. But yeah, the answer is I don't have the energy to do it. I was saying to you guys just before we came on, I'm getting to the end of this year now. I'm ready to start winding down, which is kind of happening with what we're doing. But yeah, it's been busy.
Yeah,
very busy.
I have bad news for you. Like, there's still quite a bit of this year left.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Time doesn't exist anymore, for one, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No. I mean, for us, like, we don't launch anything kind of between like October and December because we just get steamrolled by AAA. So those months at least, I get to sit back a little bit. We've got all the things like Steam sales, etc., which is pleasant. But yeah, in general, I get to chill out a little bit more than usual.
So first of all, low energy for you is still up there, and
I would say that.
Yeah. And so what has like you just had an announcement recently, No More Robots have a new game.
Yeah. Yes. Yesterday we announced like a new game we're publishing called Tombstar, which we're working with an Australian team on. One of the people involved, a guy called Andy Sum, who made a game a while ago called Crossy Road. Is probably like one of the biggest things that people know Andy for. Andy also, the first time we ever interacted was when I tweeted saying, "Why has Andy made Crossy Road free? That's stupid. Like, that's not going to do well." And then a couple of months later, it exploded. And then in a GDC talk, he then just had a slide, which was just my tweet, and that was it. So that was one of our first interactions. But no, it's been really interesting working with them, and it's been interesting for me as well because for some reason I like additional challenges each time we work with someone. Working with Australians is so strange because when I'm waking up, they're going to bed, and then anytime we want to do any announcement or anything, it's in American time when it's like 4 a.m. for them. So like when we announced the game yesterday, it was 4 a.m. for them, and I think they were pretty tired. But yeah, so we announced that yesterday, and then today we were kind of announcing numbers because I've been doing this for 3 years now somehow. So
3 years as of today, right?
Yes, yeah. It's been a long time, and and the funny thing is, I've watched myself turn grey. I know I look ginger right now, but it's just because of the light. I'm actually so grey. It's unbelievable.
No, I'm glad this was a live like video cast episode. So like when you said it's been a long time, we could see you like staring off into the distance.
Yeah,
contemplating.
Yeah. We should have just let you hang out there with yourself for a little bit.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Now, like, I mean, you're known for, speaking of GDC, and I'm pretty sure, I assume that like 90% of your relationships, are sparked from some kind of insult that you hand someone, like with Andy Sum saying like, "Who's this guy doing? He's doing it wrong." Now, but you do go to GDC and you do go to other places and you talk about digital publishing. Game discoverability is one thing that you talk about a lot. And, No More Robots is described as a data-driven publisher. Can you talk about that sort of thing and some interesting stuff? You were just tweeting today about some data. You were very open with it.
Yeah, I think when I was at Gamma, I remember I was always trying to do articles on numbers. I was fascinated by numbers, and I was always fascinated the most by I saw people putting games out, and they seemed to just be praying that the games were going to sell well. They didn't seem to be using any numbers or anything, and they just seemed to be going, "Well, I hope people are going to like this," and putting it out. And some would be like, "Yeah, my game sold," and others would be like, "Oh, it didn't sell. Why?" And I was always like, surely there are just ways to just suss out if a game is going to do well or not. It can't just be random when a game comes out. And that's part of why I ended up going into publishing and stuff. I just fascinated by this kind of thing. And then in the years between, like, me stopped working with you guys and started my own thing, I just started to just hone in more and more on what were the numbers that were important. And there's obvious ones that have come to light now. Everyone just talks about Steam wish lists all the time, for example. That's what my GDC talk is on tomorrow, actually. So that's like a big one. But there's so many other little numbers here and there where if you're just gathering all of these things and then looking at big old graphs all of the time, just like I do every single day. I was just looking at graphs before I came on this. And then
now you're looking at a graph.
And now I'm looking at a graph. Yeah. Then actually, it's quite. I was going to say it's easy. It's not easy, but it's possible to suss out how your games are going to do. And actually be able to build some success for yourself, at least a level of success. That was my theory anyway when I started this thing, and And I feel like I've proven that now. Of course, I would say to make out like, well, anybody can do this. Obviously, look, I am a massively like privileged human being. Even just coming from working with you guys in the first place, I already knew a bunch of people, like there were already connections I had. So I'm not going to be like, just do what I do and it'll work out great for you. I had to put in years and years. I was writing about games for like a decade before this, so there is that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You should use that voice for the rest of
That's how I do.
Different from you had a pre-show voice too. You got like, I don't know.
I've got so many voices. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike was actually doing some ASMR type stuff right before we went live.
Yeah.
Type stuff.
British ASMR.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh, did you want some of that? Did you want some of that
now? Yeah, let's do it. All right, Mike, do some of your findings up close and quiet and quite soothing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk about one that I have been doing recently, and I plan to. I've been kind of building this data up, and I plan to do something big about it soon, actually. But one thing that has been fascinating me this year is the Nintendo eShop. It's so weird, the Nintendo eShop. There isn't really another word for it. It's we started putting games on the eShop, and I could just not work out how to make kind of games sell on this thing. Like we were doing fine on it. The games were getting the porting cost back and all that, but I couldn't really suss it. And slowly but surely, I realized that the eShop is entirely based on how much crap you can shovel. Like, just straight up, like, how many copies can you get through the door? Because the eShop, most stores, they're based on revenue, right? And it makes sense that they would be, because it's, if you heavy discount your game, it balances out. You still need to sell a lot of copies then to be kind of climbing charts and getting natural, like organic featuring. On the eShop does not care if your game is 90% off. It's level pegging with all the other titles around it. So a $25 game and a $1 game, if they both sell one copy, they're both in the same place in the chart. That's why you may have noticed when you go on the eShop, the charts are just 90% off games, because a bunch of publishers and devs have realized this, and then they just fill the chart.
Is that good or bad?
Well, I mean, you can. I'd love to know what you think, really, but from my perspective, it's not fantastic, because. I mean, put it this way: we put out Yes Your Grace on Switch recently, and it did decently on there. I'm happy with how it sold. But on the same day, a Sudoku game came out that was $3, and it was 66% off on launch day, so it was $1. And in 2 days, it got to number 5 in the top charts on Switch. And I now know how many units that means you're selling, because the answer is a lot, right? So they were selling tons of units, and they probably outsold us because of how many units they were doing eventually. But anyway, about a month ago,
I should have come up with Sudoku.
I should just be putting out Sudoku games. The thing is that about a month ago, I decided, right, well, okay, I'm gonna have a go with this. And this is the thing I've not really talked about yet, and I plan to talk about in the future. About a month ago, I decided, screw it, I'm gonna put one of our games 90% off, just see what happens. So you may or may not know, I have this game called Not Tonight, which is an anti-Brexit simulator, which obviously goes down well with everybody. And so I talked to the dev, and he was like, yeah, let's just go for it. We stuck the game on 90% off. After 2 days, we were in the top sellers. And right now, if you check the eShop on your device, you will find the game. I think in the UK shop, it got to like number 2. In most of Europe, it was in the top 5. And we have just sold bucket loads of units in the last few weeks.
The way that you're talking about this also, like, it's almost like you're acting like you're getting away with something. Check this out.
I know, but this is the thing. That's not how it should work, right? Like, it just shouldn't work that way. Yeah. And the problem for me is that I'm obviously not the only one who's realized this. I see everybody doing this now. I actually started doing it because I saw Curve Digital doing it. I saw one of their games over and over again. I've seen Team 17 doing it. So I thought, screw it, I'll join in. But the problem is, the more and more people that do this, we all know how this goes. We've seen this
Race
happen
to the bottom,
a million
right?
times. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen this? And the thing is, me trying to be like, well, I'm going to stick to my guns and not deep discount my games now, then I just don't sell anything. So I have to join the race now.
So when you deep discount a game like that on Switch and then you discount goes away, you're back at full price, how does that trend at that point? Does it still do well from being on those lists, or?
Yeah, so actually the game just came off discount in the US, and yesterday it definitely didn't sell as many copies as it was while it was on offer, but it actually did sell more units yesterday than it normally did before the sale, just from being in the top sellers charts. So at full price, it's now selling decently because it's in the charts. But anyway, the point is that imagine what it's going to be like in 6 months on the eShop. Like, once everyone's realized this is the thing, all the people who listen to this now are quickly going into their Nintendo backends, like really, like putting 90% off. Like, it's going to be an S show. I don't know if I can swear on this, but it's going to be bad news. I mean, I don't think Nintendo are going to do anything about it. It's Nintendo we're talking about, isn't it? So they're not going to do anything about this.
Have we had a Switch apocalypse yet? Is that a term that we've coined?
I think we're about to have a Switch apocalypse. I think by this Christmas we will be. But anyway, that's just one of the lovely things that I've been experimenting with recently.
Yeah, and you do this thing, like, so for so many publishers and developers, smaller size, they have to do this kind of reverse engineering of it, and it's interesting, like, seeing it. And you've always been like this, like, things are a black box to everyone, and then you kind of go to the end point, you go to the storefront, and then you just and you're just like this is like, if you're listening, I'm making a hand motion like I'm unwrapping a tiny little present or something.
Yeah. This is weirdly fun to me. Doing this, be like, oh, what happens when it's 90% off? I'm watching it every morning. Like, my alarm would go off, and the first thing I did was just grab the Switch. Like, where are we up to on the eShop now? Like, checking the charts, refreshing the store page. Like,
and you're just like, it's working.
It's working. We're there.
Oh my gosh,
this is my life, and for some reason, I love this stuff. I love just working out how to break online stores.
Yeah. What's the next marketplace for you after you're done destroying the Switch? Like, what's next?
You're done initiating the Switch.
Yeah. The one I'm currently tussling with is PS4. We've only got one title on there, and we're about to have Descenders on there as well. We're about to do our first retail game, actually, in 3 weeks. Descenders is out on like August 25th, I think. So that is massively exciting for me. But I guess that's going to be the next thing I'm tracking. Is retail worth it?
Is retail
like those reports?
You have an American radio voice too.
Yeah.
Switch Apocalypse 2020.
This is the thing. The thing for me though is that, like, every single time I do something, my immediate reaction for this kind of stuff is, right, I can't wait to collect all the data and show everybody in the world. Whereas I know that's like, I get people telling me from like other publishers, like DMing me, being like, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep telling everybody how to do everything? Every time you tell people, they just work it out, and then everybody starts doing it.
Hey, and like, platform holders have always appreciated you sharing your reverse engineering results.
They love data transparency.
They love it. They love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the platform holders love it. Yeah. I remember, like, when I used to write about games, I was like, I don't care. I'll just dump any data anywhere because it doesn't bother me. Now I try to be a little more clever. I try not to be like, here's all our sales data for Xbox and PlayStation.
This one easy trick to get to the top of the eShop. Nintendo hates it.
That's what it is. It's always fun thing. But I don't care about giving data away because, quite frankly, the industry changes so quickly that anything I any guidance I give people, 6 months later, it's completely different. Like the stuff I'm saying about Switch now, in 6 months, ain't going to work anymore.
No, by the end of this show, it's going to be completely obsolete. So, yeah. Should we, let's see, should we go to chat, Alyssa, and just get, like, there's one question.
Is there questions?
Micro, Destroyer of Worlds. No.
I am Destroyer.
Gabe Pofcher asks, let me read this, make sure it's all
on the up and up, which you should do before you intro the question.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. You're probably familiar with mailing list evangelist Chris Zukowski, who I do know is a super nice guy. When I asked him about the Discord strategies from your excellent GDC talks, he told me, quote, email kicks everything else's ass, referencing 10 times higher open rates. Care to respond?
Sure. Screw you, Chris. No. No. So I don't disagree, but I also don't think that the two things are the same thing. This is going to be a very boring next 30 seconds. The thing with mailing lists are they're great for just like trying to get a ton of people to quickly go to a thing. You know, you email them all and then they're all clicking on a link and that's fantastic. But it's also a very you're like a very specific thing. Go here, now go here, now go here like this, which is great for that use. For me, one of the reasons why I build Discord communities for our games is because the people who are in the community for your game are just so much they're just incredibly useful people to have around, because especially kind of once you kind of get in deep with them all and they feel real connection to your game, they end up doing so much more for your game than just clicking on some links. You know, you'll end up like we always get whenever one of our games launches within the first couple of hours, we've got a bunch of positive reviews on Steam already, because all of these people who were super invested in the game have now all quickly bought it. They're all in the Discord showing their screenshots of buying the game. Look how quickly I bought the game. And then 2 hours later, they've all left a Steam review. And of course, they've left a positive one because they've been looking forward to the game so long. It's stuff like that. Like when you want to do some testing, you can just like grab some people from your Discord server who you trust, kind of pull them in, say, hey, do you want to just check out this thing? We're doing some balancing on the game. There's just so many useful ways that you can utilize a community for a game that don't come from the like anonymity of having a bunch of people on a mailing list, I guess.
Dig into like your Discord stuff. When you say like going through Discord, you don't mean like I set up a server, here's one channel and everybody just chats. Like you do some really intricate Discord things, like weird tricks and ARGs, right?
Yes, we do really weird stuff. I could probably talk for an hour about it, but the short version is that we do strange like D&D style ARG stuff where we're about to start one for Tombstar on Monday, actually, where we get people, when they join the Discord server, they all join a team. And they all like pledge their allegiance to some team. So like in the new one, it's either like the Space Force or it's this horrible gang, but maybe the Space Force are the bad guys all along, and then we'll have them all doing like things against each other. I think for this Tombstar one, we're doing like some weird like Risk style board game where they're going to be like taking on a map and they're going to have to vote on where they want to take on the map and all this kind of stuff. It's nothing to do with the game. We always make sure that the weird games that we're doing are actually nothing mechanically to do with the video game itself, but they have the lore of the video game in them, so that then when people play the game, they know the characters already, and they know who they care about, and in the meantime, it keeps them all entertained and makes them want to stick around in the community, rather than just, you know, you invite them and say, game's coming out in 6 months, so just chill and don't leave, please. It gives them a purpose to stay, and it means when other people join as well, they're like, what the holy heck is going on in here? And they kind of want to join as well.
So there's also, you know, since I've known you, you've really shown that you can find really obscure games and what to me seem like obscure places that are actually good games. And then I know you did that at tiny build, and I know that you do that at No More Robots. Can you talk about that, that process where you're, being proactive and seeking out games and what catches your eye?
Yeah. I don't really know how I find them.
Okay,
A
next
lot of
question.
the time,
Yeah.
lot of the time, it's like so random. Most of the games, like I either just like I bumped into people at events and they just show me something on the fly. Because as you imagine, I see like a million games every single week. Literally millions of games, and every now and again, one just catches my eye. I think the big thing for me that I try to tell people the most is that the reason I sign the games that I do is because the moment I see them, then my brain goes, "Oh, what the heck is this?" Like, and if I don't have that reaction, then the average person isn't going to have that reaction either. Like if I don't immediately go, "Oh, what am I looking at?"
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, sometimes I have that reaction, and then I dig deeper, and there's something that maybe the pins aren't aligned. But the games I have signed, that's happened with every single one of them, basically.
Yeah.
Your games are all like different genres, different visual styles. Like is there like a consistent thread through all of them besides just that like wow factor in the back of your brain somewhere? Or?
Not really, no. I think I made a conscious decision to not do that in the first place. I saw people like Devolver, at the time when I started, especially had the sort of gritty, a lot of the games were kind of bloody. I know they've kind of moved away from that a bit now, but I felt like I didn't want to do that. I felt like I wanted it to be more that I'm just all over the place. Like,
what will you
got
do
this
next?
mountain bike game, and now I've got this alternate reality 90s internet simulator. And I really don't care what genre it is. If it's weird, I like it.
Does that present like a marketing challenge at all? Like jumping around like that so wildly? How do you handle that?
In a weird way, the opposite is a marketing challenge for me. When a game is like other games, it's a marketing challenge. A lot of the time, when I first come to write the first press release announcing a game, one of our games, and I'm like, oh God, like maybe this will be hard. And then I sit there and I just start typing. And I'm like, this is a piece of piss. Like I can just easily talk about this because it's like literally no other game. Like when I was first typing out the sentence, Hypnospace Outlaw, new game from No More Robots, is a 90s alternate reality internet simulator. And that immediately is just like, someone's going to click that.
Yeah, that's it
weird.
Right there.
yeah. Like it's just weird. And I think if anything, signing more generic games is harder, I think, because then how do you describe a more generic game that is like a lot of other games?
And that's what I wanted to touch on too. And we're going to get to this next question in a second. But it kind of boils down to the game itself is, it's its own marketing material, right? That's what it seems like with your stuff.
That's exactly it. Like I obviously I love to say that I'm fantastic at what I do. Of course I do. But the truth is that half the battle is the game itself. And the truth is I pick the game specifically because I see something in them where I'm like, I'm going to be able to sell the crap out of this. Like this is already, when I'm first talking to a dev and I'm on like the first call with them, talking about whether we should work together or not, I'm already sat there like scribbling things down. Oh, I could do this and I could say this thing and all this kind of stuff. Like when we were first talking about Hypnospace, we were saying, oh, when we launch this, we should put out like AOL style CDs to press for it. That would be hilarious. Like I already know when I first start talking to someone if I'm going to be able to sell this thing just from whether or not my brain is exploding with it or not.
Yeah.
That's what happens a lot of the time.
We do have a question from Ajit Singh asking, what is the just straightforward? What are the best methods for promoting an indie game?
God, that's wide, isn't it? I will say that the best ways are the ways where you can actually see the let me see how to word this. The best ways that I have found when I'm selling things are ones where I can straight up see whether it's having an effect or not, rather than just doing things and like hoping, oh, I hope this is going to do something. For example, like social media stuff, quite frankly, doesn't do a lot for us, to be honest. Like we do, obviously we still do social media stuff. It'd be crazy not to, but we do not focus hard on it because tweets and Facebook and all that for our games, they don't really do anything. We might get like 2 clicks on a link per tweet or something like that. It's not fantastic. The stuff that does work for us is the Discord stuff. The running a private beta before we launch a game, kind of giving away like the first level of one of our games. We normally try to give sort of like 20 to 30 minutes of the game away via like a Steam key, and we then say to people when they're signing up for that, hey, why don't you give us a little cheeky Steam wish list while you're doing that? And that works amazingly, because then every single person that we're convincing to wish list the game on Steam is then getting an email on the day that the game launches to say, hey, remember this game you wish listed? It's stuff like that that's actually like tangible. Like someone is going to hear, that person's now going to hear about the game the day it launches. That's invaluable. So it's stuff like that, trying to build the numbers that matter really is the most important thing to us. I hope that answered the question. It was quite a wide-ranging question, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you can find all of Mike's obsolete talks on GDC YouTube.
Yeah.
But speaking of talks and stuff, we've got about 4 minutes before we have to go to a break.
That went so fast. Sorry.
I did. Did you have something you wanted to ask, Alyssa?
No, I'm just.
Mind?
There's a lot.
Okay.
There's some other good questions in chat and other good questions that there's not enough time.
We still got some time.
Just do power. Let's just power through them. I'll do 20-second answers.
Boom, boom, boom. But wish lists. You mentioned wish lists, and your session is going to be about wish lists.
Yes.
Just spoil the whole talk in the next 3.5 minutes for everyone.
Yeah, I can do that. So tomorrow I will be giving a talk, GDC Summer Talk, about building Steam wish lists, all the ways that we do it. Steam wish lists are important because part of what I was just saying there, it's a tangible number. We know now that, for example, roughly 25% of Steam wish lists end up converting into sales, which, if you build 30,000 wish lists before you launch your game, you already know that you're going to get, a decent number of sales, which is obviously really useful. So my talk is essentially going to be going through all of the ways that we attempt to make those wish list numbers go up. That's it. That's the talk. Hope you liked it.
There's the Destiny meme, like, yes, number go up. And it's the same for game publishing.
It's literally the same. Isn't it life, though? Like, life is just the numbers going up. That's what it is.
Okay. I think that what we can do is take a break, and everybody hanging out in chat, there's going to be a word from our sponsor, but stick around. We'll hang out with you in chat for a little bit, and don't go anywhere, and we're gonna roll.
I'll try and answer some questions in the chat as well.
So stick around. Great idea. All right, be back in a little bit. Up next, we'd like to welcome one of our sponsors, Eric Morales, gaming segment leader at Amazon Web Services. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining us all the way from Sweden, right?
That's right. Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your game dev background, and what you do at AWS.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an enthusiastic and somewhat aggressive gamer in my personal life. I love to avoid warranties and a bit of a gadget hound as well. So I kind of on the personal side, I've been a storied Neo Geo collector in the past, and
nice.
I've been able, thankfully, thanks to the work I've done with AWS over the last few years, really kind of pivot my career to working with game developers all over the world, which has been my passion for a long time, and I'm thrilled to be able to do it. So my role at AWS is I currently lead the commercial business for AWS into the video game sector, which is what we call AWS Game Tech. And so my team helps game developers build really fun, engaging games with the cloud. My background in games is mostly as a fan, but I've had the privilege of working with game developers at AWS since 2011 when I first joined.
Great. A friend of mine actually incidentally worked on the Samurai Showdown re-release.
Oh my God.
You should check that out.
It is fantastic, for the record.
I'll pass that along. So can you give us a rundown of the ways that the cloud benefits next-gen game development?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is starting with sort of the console space, right? Obviously, there's a brand new console generation, Gen 9, that's right on the cusp of launching in Q4 of this year. The hardware requirements have been top of mind for a lot of people. Some of the really innovative storage work that Sony's been doing in the PS5, some of the really innovative business model innovations that Microsoft's been doing for the Xbox. There's lots of exciting things happening on the console side, but kind of first and foremost, major fidelity increases are happening in this next generation. Developers are increasingly seeing expectations from consumers, thanks to this next wave of hardware, to deliver super high definition, so UHD plus 4K experiences at 60 frames or higher, and that's going to require more technical capability. It's going to require more infrastructure to kind of back that up, and that's just on the console side. In addition, we actually see beyond just kind of the two workhorse consoles that are on the cusp of launching. There's just a ton of really interesting developments on the business side throughout the rest of the industry. Think about subscription-based services like Apple Arcade that are kind of spanning both mobile and desktop experiences, and streaming-based services, right? Like Blacknut out of France or Stadia by Google. There's lots of really interesting things that are happening, and we think that the sort of centralized common point between all of these trends is that the expectations of consumers for what a game needs to be is going to be impacted by the inputs from the developers over time. It's going to change the way that developers stay productive, and it's going to change the velocity that developers produce and create games. And that's an area where the cloud can really help. Getting access to tremendously powerful infrastructure with a single line of code. One quick API call gets you the ability to have a massive workstation, use it for an hour, and then throw it away. That changes the way that people develop games, both in the HD set as well as for mobile.
Yeah, so it sounds very developer centric, and you kind of went into some of the answer to this question, but sure. Some of the the goals that you have when working with game developers, what are those? It seems a lot of it is like ease of use and increased productivity.
Sure, yeah. So we come at it from a couple of different angles, right? So AWS is known for, we have 175 plus services. That can be daunting to a lot of people who go to the website and see, dozens, hundreds of individual services. But, fundamentally, the way that we break these down is we wanted to give every developer in the world the same capabilities of a massive enterprise class data center, but with the ability to use as little or as much of those capabilities as you want and on your own terms. Right. So, only paying for what you actually use and giving customers the flexibility and power to get access to the infrastructure they need to get their job done. And so the way that we interact with this industry is both kind of from the back end forward, as well as from the productivity side and in. Right. So from a back end perspective, we obviously support with a myriad storage options ranging from Amazon S3, which is a great way for people to deliver files, to a variety of database services like Amazon Aurora, which is heavily in use by companies like Supercell and the Pokemon Company. And then and that's an example of just the back-end work we do. We also have a service called Amazon Game Lift that actually manages session-based game servers. So companies like Ubisoft have built games like For Honor sitting on top of Game Lift that make it really easy to build multiplayer experiences that are live. But on the front end, right, we also want to speak to the artists So the people that are sewing together polygons and creating art, right? That's interactive. We want to help them make more fun, engaging titles, right? And kind of our belief, our goal is that if we can make the lives of individual developers better, both from a creative perspective as well as from a technical perspective, that's going to result in more fun games, and more fun games are much more likely to be successful, which benefits everybody.
Yeah, very cool. So as you said, there are a lot of services and it can be daunting, but do you see game developers being more receptive to these cloud-based solutions over the past couple of years?
Absolutely. I think our goal, if I can be a little bit pithy, our goal is to work with every game developer in the world, right? That's willing to talk to us. And if you're not specifically in the data center or hardware business, we want you to shut down your data center. Right? We believe that game developers are in the business of making games. Pretty clear cut, right? And so anything that we can do to expedite that, to help increase the quality and the output and the productivity of those teams is something that we want to be a part of. And that's the purpose, the goal of AWS Game Tech in general is we want to send a signal to the community and to customers all over the world that this team wakes up every single day and exclusively thinks about how to help developers make better games. From a reception perspective, more than 90% of the major game developers and games publishers, game studios in the world use AWS today. So that spans both mobile, including companies like Rovio and Supercell and Voodoo here in France, and all the way up to kind of more AAA experiences. Gearbox Software built Borderlands 3 on top of AWS. We talked about the Pokemon company and literally hundreds of other customers. So this is a major market focus for AWS generally, and we think we have a lot that we can help customers deliver on.
Yeah. So are we talking about small, medium, and large studios that you work with? Are you willing to work across the board? You have services for studios of all sizes?
Yeah. Studios of all sizes, right? I mean, look, one of my favorite games on the planet is Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley, to my knowledge, not running on AWS today, but Stardew Valley was made by one passionate person, right? Over time, it took several years, obviously. We would love to work with developers like that, right? Our goal is, regardless of your genre, regardless of whether a game is single player or multiplayer, the cloud can help you get things done, right? A classic example of this is, we work with a customer who's made a game called AI Dungeon. An AI Dungeon 2. You may be familiar with them, right? So they're actually using AWS to build the machine learning models that power that game. And that's made by just a couple of guys out of Utah. And they've made this a really engaging, interactive experience that's not using data centers worth of equipment anywhere, right? But they're using the cloud to build really fun, interesting, unique, engaging experiences, which is the goal. Another example of this, just from a productivity perspective, is with a medium-sized studio, IO Interactive, based out of Copenhagen. These are the folks behind the Hitman series. Yeah. And they're actually using AWS services, specifically some of our AI and ML services, to actually help build the narrative for Hitman levels, right? So when they were making Hitman 2, they used Amazon Polly, which is the voice engine underneath Amazon Alexa. They were using Amazon Polly to test out scripts and conversations between characters. And what that allowed them to do was develop the levels on the technical and artistic side at the exact same time as they were writing and tweaking the script and the narrative. Right? And it meant that they could actually make changes to the storyline. They could do lots of creative work before hiring voice actors to do the final, print, so to speak. Yeah. And so this is a good example of how the cloud can help even single player experiences that aren't necessarily connected all the time, and actually help developers impact the narrative experience of their games, which is really interesting. So.
Yeah, that's very cool. And last thing, for game developers interested in finding out more about AWS, where can they go?
Yeah, so we've got lots of resources for game developers all over the world. I think the best initial point to go to is aws.amazon.com/gametech, all one word. And that's a nice collection of all of the games related technology including our services, as well as some software capabilities like Amazon Lumberyard, some access to our solutions, right? So like analytic pipeline solutions for developers that are looking to analyze player behavior. We have links to all of that starting on that website. We've also got really good deep dives into how our customers, like Supercell, like Gearbox, like Rovio, like Capcom, like the Pokemon Company, and hundreds of others are using AWS every day. So you can dig into those and get a sense of how other developers have used the cloud to make really fun game experiences.
All right, that's great. Well, Eric, thanks for joining us today, and best of luck.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks so much. Same to you.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the GDC podcast live. Over to you, Christian.
I thought you were gonna throw that to Brian or Alex or Alyssa
Or anybody.
Anybody. It's everybody's podcast.
I'm gonna throw this one to Alyssa then.
We're wasting our valuable and limited time. We're now joined by fellow Gamasutra contributors and editors, Alex Waro and Bryant Francis. Say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Brian Francis. I'm a contributing editor at Gamasutra. Yesterday I was called a hooligan. I insisted I was a highwayman. I am today still a highwayman. Alex, who are you?
Oh, I'm just like a general ne'er-do-well. I'm Alex Waro, an editor at Gamasutra.com, and I'm excited to get in here and talk about GDC summer. How's everybody's GDC going? How are you feeling?
Woo, I've slept for like 5 hours each day.
I'm looking at the schedule for just everything going on, and how is the team behind the scenes? Please sleep.
Oh, Mike, did you have a good time in chat with everyone there? Did you answer everyone's questions?
I had a fantastic time.
We're going to see all these developers. Their games are going to be at the top of anyone who attended this. Yeah,
this is a relevant question because we have now enough Gamasutra people here to dominate the conversation. Why was Gamasutra hacked at the start of the year?
It was?
The joke is none of us knew it wasn't hacked.
It could be anything. Yeah. The internet's magic and no one knows how it works.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the best.
Were there any questions you answered during the break you wanted to elaborate on while we're on a hot mic?
No.
Okay, cool.
I think I answered every. I will say, if anybody has any more questions, keep throwing them at me. It's 10:30 at night here now. I'm losing my mind. So it's
Mike,
fine.
I have a question for you. You started at the start of this. You identified a mindset, which is like, oh, I hope this game sells. You know, as a thing that you saw when you were writing for us. I've met a lot of developers who sometimes sort of go, it's not that, oh, we hope this sells. It's like, oh, no, we sort of trust that it'll sell. You know, we sort of trust that, like, if we get these reviews on Steam, if we pay for these ads, that things will happen. And that leads to a different mindset, a different kind of release date where either, like, you know, the ad budget is very expensive and yet the numbers are just kind of okay and they may keep the developer alive. But it's not like, you know, it's not the strategy you pitched. Like, have you encountered that mindset with some of the developers you work with? And how do you sort of behoove upon them that, no, please take this seriously. We need to take this seriously, that we are in a system and we must exploit
I mean that what you've described, quite frankly, is probably most game developers. The thing you got to always remember is people who make games are not video game marketers. Like they people who make games went in to make games. They how many times do you see, especially on like Twitter or something over the years, people who make games being like, oh, no one bloody told me I was going to have to sell this thing as well. Like, and to be honest, I understand it. Like, it is two completely different mindsets. I started trying to make video games. I went to university to learn how to do it. I failed miserably. So then I decided I'd jump over and start crapping on other people's creations. But like, this is the thing. Like, like I say, it's two completely different mindsets. It's why so many people do need a publisher. When you find those people who make games and they're really like and all that. I always think of good old Andy Schutz. He always he's the kind of person I'm talking about, or like Nathan Vella or someone like that. You can tell that they are just also going to be able to sell their game, but not everybody is a person like that, and so some people need someone to help them sell games. That's just how it is.
Are you just covered in like spreadsheets and things like that? I think a lot of people, if data is key, to kind of reverse engineer this stuff and get better insight into black boxes, how do you organize the data? How do you collect it, and what's your kind of process there?
Oh, I just don't. I
Okay.
literally right now have over 20 tabs open, and all of them is data from many, many different places. I've got Google Analytics here. I've got Reddit here. I've got YouTube stuff here. I've got Google Forms here. Like, I'm actually an incredibly unorganized person, truth be told. It's actually why I have, the more games we got, I've had to finally admit to myself, maybe I actually need some help with this. And, you know, there's now 7 people who work at No More Robots, you know.
Okay.
And it's another point, actually, like, I think, you know, a lot of people see me going, on Twitter, No More Robots. But actually, there is like 6 other people who work with me who helped me an incredible amount. I finally hired a producer earlier this year, a wonderful lady called Sally Blake, who basically, since she started, has made me realize how on earth was I running this in the fucking first place? Like, it's crazy. I do not understand how I did this before I had her help. Get a producer if you don't have one. Please do it. I just didn't realize. But there's definitely people who help me kind of keep this thing going.
I want to ask a question from Vance Barron in the chat.
Yeah.
Who says, a lot of people have told me that as an indie dev, buying ads is completely useless. Is that true? And if not, where are the actually useful places to buy ads that indies could afford? Or are there like more, you know, effective ways of promotion than that?
Yes. The answer is yes. Buying ads is useless. The only place that I have found buying ads to be useful is Reddit. And I say this, it's good for breaking even on your ads on Reddit. So I have worked out how to the bottom line is on Reddit, you can choose how much you pay per click. So I just worked out the formula for how many clicks do I need before people, what's the percentage of people who click through who then wishlist the game, and how many of those people who wishlist the game buy the game? And then I can reverse engineer that back and work out, right, I need a click-through rate of 30 cents. And so then I set it to 30 cents, and then we're getting people clicking. And technically, those people, I'm just breaking even on. We're paying for the ads, and then those people are paying for the ads with their purchases. But of course, the point is that it's making all the holy algorithms happier, that we're getting more sales and we're getting more views, which then organically leads to more. So in a way, we are getting something. Outside of Reddit ads, it's a massive, massive waste of time. I've seen people I've seen people spend so much money on ads. I mean, I'm not AAA, so maybe in AAA it makes sense. You know, when you see like Assassin's Creed plastered all over everything, I'm sure that must make sense. For indie people, God no. I've seen people pay like $40,000 for like a couple of banners at PAX. You know, like those big hanging banners at PAX. And then when their game comes out, I'm like, you've sold about 500 copies, mate.
Mike, do you have to rerun that calculation with every new game, or do you have like a rate inside that you know roughly like the CPM is average for? You just sort of have to start spending for every game and figure out what the click-through rate is.
Yeah, roughly all our games cost the same. So and roughly have all the same rates, or at least if they're not getting the same rates, we work out why not. We swap some key art out, we change the wording, etc. This is getting extremely close to it sounding like I know what I'm doing, but that's the kind of horrible maths that I love playing with every day, really.
Yeah. So you actually gave a talk in 2018, and let me get the title right. Making the world give a damn about your game in 2018. Is that about the same as making people give a damn about your game in 2020? I mean, certainly things have changed in the past couple of years.
There's some things that have changed. A lot of it is still similar. I think some of the things that have massively changed for us include like stuff that is currently kind of upcoming, and you can feel it. You can feel it in the air coming. For example, stuff like Game Pass, and Game Pass and other things like Game Pass, you know, because you know that there's more Game Passes coming. It's not going to be the only one, is it? Netflix appeared, and then how many other Netflixes appeared? this is going to be a model that's going to be coming, and it's something that we've had to think about a lot. We are, constantly talking to various different platforms about trying to get these kind of deals, subscription deals, etc. I would advise everybody to look into these kind of things, because I think if you've got the right game for these platforms, the people behind these platforms are going to care. And if you don't ask, then you're definitely not going to get on them.
And
Are you concerned at all that they're going to devalue games over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. I was a couple of years ago when it started happening. We started putting titles on Game Pass, and I think right now it's fine. Like right in this moment in time, the money is there. Like there's the deals are there, etc., for it to make sense. And I think other platforms like Game Pass are going to appear, who are also going to be offering nice deals, etc. The problem comes in a couple of years, 2 to 5 years, when there are 4 services and they've all got every game. So why do they need your game? But also, if you're not on the service, no one's playing your game.
And the global economy is being rewritten right now with what people's finances look like. So that's those 2 things go hand in hand, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. But the thing is that, especially with next gen about to happen, I feel like what always happens is whenever there's a new generation of console, that sort of kicks everyone up the arse a little bit. It's all of a sudden everything's a bit more exciting, and you get that little burst of people caring about the stuff again. And I especially feel like if we're in an unfortunate circumstance where what's happening in the world right now is still going on as these consoles are coming out, which it's seeming like maybe it's going to.
What are you referring to again?
I don't know. It feels like that might actually really sort of boost that even more. I mean, everyone's been saying already, right, that video game sales in general have been up. I know ours have, since all of this horrible stuff has been happening. I can only assume, I don't know about how it'll affect manufacturing, of course, but I can only assume that the demand for next gen is going to be strong. And so I feel like once that kicks off for the next year or so after that, we're going to see sort of excitement in video games, hype, etc., which passes to everybody, which is good. I think it's good, new next gen. But so yeah, it's just video games, isn't it? It's always all over the place. It's always all over the place. Every year I have the same conversation with the same people at GDC. Oh, video games, what's going to happen? It's all over. That's how it works.
Mike, there is a good question in chat I think we should get to, but I also want to ask, as a person who gives advice, and is trying to figure out advice, and you're sometimes trying to read the bones and like literally sometimes doing, like old pagan magic to figure out if your video game will sell or not. There's kind of a phenomenon where like advice is good, but the problem is the advice is good for the experience that the advice was already lived through. So by the time you're giving it, especially if it's marketing advice, the ground is already changing under you, which isn't to say like don't go to Mike's talk, go to Mike's talk, but how have you like adapted to that when talking to your fellow developers and trying to jam on these ideas together?
Yeah, you're definitely right. Like a lot of the stuff, I guess it's what we were kind of touching on a second ago about like, does a talk that I gave in 2018 still work? Yeah, a lot of this stuff does change very rapidly. And especially as there's new platforms coming out, we're talking about like subscriptions, etc. In the next 2 years, how many talks about that is going to come out, and which ones do you listen to, and who's just saying nice things about platforms because they're on them, etc. It's a minefield with this kind of stuff. I think when you're looking, if someone's looking for advice, pretend there's someone listening who their game isn't out for 12 months. And they're thinking, I'm going to have to start selling stuff in about 6 months. You should definitely, in 6 months, at that point, then start to look for recent sales figures, recent ways people are selling things, etc. And maybe not completely rely on talks that are a year old at that point, because stuff moves fast.
Sorry to captain the ship for a second, but for Gabe Pafker's question before we leave here, what convention or show strategy would you recommend for small indies with low sales budgets and expectations? You have 30 seconds to answer.
Do not get a booth. And when I say that, I really, to be honest, mean at don't want to say names. I mean at like, one of the big like shows where 60,000 gamers turn up. Those people who see your game are not going to convert into sales or anything, because they're going to walk past your game or maybe even play it a little while and then just move on. If you are going to go to a show or you're close to a show or whatever, just turn up and do meetings with useful people there. We've done shows, like booth kind of shows. To be honest, we've stopped doing them now because we just haven't seen the benefit of those kind of consumer shows, really.
That was like perfectly timed. Wow.
Nailed it.
We're out of time. I'm going to hijack and sign us off, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, as mentioned before, if you want to see some of Mike's outdated talks on how to sell your video game, you can find a lot of them for free on the GDC YouTube channel. A lot of great content there, and then Mike's content's there too. So, there's that. Mike, where should people bother you with questions?
Oh, you should go on my Twitters. I am at Rave of Ravendale on the twits. Hit me.
Never heard it said out loud
Twitter
before.
fights with you.
On the twits.
Yeah.
I tweet horrible things.
And useful sometimes. It's like one for every five, right? Yeah.
A lot of horrible tweets.
You people follow me just to see the horrible thing I'll say next.
Your advice is so good that they enter the shitposts.
Yes, exactly.
So
pretty much.
For the rest of us, thank you for joining us for our live podcast episode. We have another one tomorrow with Emily Greer, correct?
Yeah.
So we'll see you then. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.